Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are doing something that feels a little bit like we're engaging in, I don't know, forbidden archaeology.
That's a good way to put it.
We're digging up a blueprint from the past that technically, well, according to the textbooks, it really shouldn't exist.
It's a blueprint that challenges the very foundation of how we think about movement, about energy, and reality itself.
We are setting the time circuits for the 1950s, but I want to be really clear about the vibe here. We aren't talking about the 1950s of I Love Lucy, poodle skirts and malt shops.
No, not at all.
We are talking about the high stakes, high paranoia, high hope era of the early space race, the era of fringe science.
It was such a fascinating window of time. You have to remember, in the late 40s and 50s, the world had just seen the atom split. We had unleashed this terrifying, almost godlike power with the atomic bomb.
Right.
So the public consciousness was just primed for the impossible. If we could destroy a city with a single bomb, what else could we do? What couldn't we do?
Exactly. There was this feeling that the laws of physics were suddenly, malleable. And while NASA, or what would eventually become NASA, was focusing on these big rockets, all fire and brute force.
Right, the brute force approach.
There were other people in garages and hangars trying to find a back door to the stars. And that is where we find the subject of today's deep dive, Otis T. Carr.
Otis T. Carr.
Yeah.
A figure who sits right on the razor's edge between misunderstood genius and, well, cautionary tale. He was an American inventor who made some of the boldest claims in the history of aerospace engineering, period.
And the mission of this deep dive is to really explore those claims. We aren't just looking at the nuts and bolts of the machine he tried to build. We are looking at the whole philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
Because as I went through these sources, specifically the excerpts on the dimensions of mystery and the OTC X-1, I realized Carr wasn't just trying to build a better engine.
No, not even close. He was trying to rewrite the manual for reality.
He was proposing that anti-gravity wasn't just about mechanics. It wasn't just about spinning magnets or weird metals. He believed it was about consciousness.
That is the crux of it. That is the thread we are going to pull on today. Carr believed that you couldn't separate the machine from the mind of the pilot, and you couldn't separate gravity from the fundamental structure of the universe itself.
It's a connection nobody else was making at the time.
He was trying to bridge engineering and metaphysics in a way that, frankly, sounds insane to a modern engineer, but is absolutely fascinating to unpack.
It's the ultimate what if. What if you could build a car that runs on the nature of reality itself? So we have the blueprints, or at least descriptions of them. We have a breakdown of 9 distinct dimensions of existence. And we have a mysterious coded language memo from 1959.
It is a lot to get through, but the stakes are high. Because if Carr was even partially right, it means we've been looking at space travel through the wrong end of the telescope for, 70 years now?
Let's start with the hardware then. The object itself, the OTC X-1. When you hear experimental craft from the 1950s, you might picture a sleek jet or a rocket. But describe the OTC X-1 for us.
If you saw a sketch of the OTC X-1, your immediate gut reaction would be, that's a flying saucer.
Literally a flying saucer.
A circular, disc-shaped vehicle, a central dome for the cabin, sloping sides. I mean, it is the absolute archetype of the UFO phenomenon that was exploding at the time.
But he wasn't saying he found it in a crash site or anything like that?
No, he claimed he engineered it.
Yeah.
Based on principles he learned from, of all people, Nikola Tesla.
And the shape wasn't just an aesthetic choice, right? He wasn't just trying to look like something from a sci-fi movie.
No, the shape was functional. It was essential, actually. In standard aviation, you have wings to generate lift as you move forward through the air.
Sure.
In rocketry, you have a cylinder to hold fuel and direct thrust downward. Carr's concept was entirely different. He needed a circle because the entire mechanism relied on rotation. A whole lot of spinning, specifically counter-rotating sections. The source material describes a really complex arrangement of electromagnets and capacitor plates spinning in opposite directions to create a very specific type of field.
Okay, let's pause on that, because this is the fundamental fork in the road between Carr and NASA. The rockets we know, the Saturn V, the Falcon 9, they operate on pure Newtonian physics, action and reaction.
Right.
You explode gas out the back at a high velocity and the rocket gets pushed forward. It's violence. It's loud.
It is a controlled explosion. That's all a rocket is. It's brute force. You are fighting gravity by punching it in the face with enormous amounts of chemical energy.
Right. But Carr, he wasn't trying to punch gravity.
He was trying to persuade it, or maybe sidestep it, Carr's approach relied on these electromagnetic fields and what we now call anti-gravity principles. He believed that if you generated a specific high-energy field around the craft, you could essentially decouple it from the Earth's gravitational pull.
So you aren't fighting the Earth's grip, you are just stepping out of it.
Exactly. You are creating a local environment, a bubble, you could say, where the laws of gravity don't apply in the same way. The craft becomes its own center of gravity.
This leads us to the operational claims, and there are some really bold ones in the source material. The first one is levitation.
Levitation and hovering. Now, a helicopter can hover, a Harrier jet can hover.
Sure, but they scream. They burn fuel like crazy.
Exactly. Think about the energy required. It's massive, and it's loud. The air is literally being beaten into submission. Carr's claim was that the OTC X-1 could float silently, motionless.
Like a balloon, just hanging there.
Like a balloon, but a balloon made of heavy machinery. The claim was that once the field was activated, the craft simply ceased to have weight relative to the Earth. It could sit 3 feet off the ground or 3,000 feet with zero expenditure of propellant.
That alone would change civilization as we know it. Imagine shipping, transport, personal travel without the noise or the fuel costs of fighting gravity every single inch of the way.
It would be a revolution on a scale we can't even comprehend.
But then, the source material just drops the hammer. It goes from cool hovercraft to space-time travel.
And this is where we have to really stretch our minds, because Carr didn't view space and time as two different things you travel through.
Which is consistent with Einstein, right? Space-time is one fabric.
It is. But Carr took it a step further in terms of actual navigation. He claimed the OTC X-1 wasn't just moving through distance. He claimed that by manipulating these electromagnetic fields, you were manipulating the rate of vibration of the matter of the ship itself.
The vibration.
Yes. And if you change the vibration, you change your relationship to time.
So he's suggesting that this machine, built in 1959, could theoretically go to next week or to last century.
That is the direct implication. The sources mention the ability to navigate time as if it were just another coordinate on the map. Not just X, Y, and Z for space, but T for time.
It breaks the brain a little bit. We're talking about a guy who likely drove a Buick LeSabre, talking about skipping through centuries like pages in a book.
It does sound impossible by our current standards, but there's one more claim in that list that is even wilder. Extraterrestrial communication.
Yeah, I saw that. Potential to communicate with alien intelligence. My first thought was, okay, so it has a really good radio.
But look at the phrasing in the source. Leveraging higher dimensional energy. This wasn't about sending Morse code over radio waves.
What's wrong with the radio waves?
Well, radio waves are part of the electromagnetic spectrum, sure, but they are limited by the speed of light. They are physical. They take years, centuries, millennia to cross the stars. Carr seemed to believe that any truly advanced intelligence wouldn't be using such primitive tech.
So what were they using in his model?
Telepathy, or a better word might be resonance. The idea is that if you can tap into these higher dimensions we're about to discuss, communication happens instantly. It's not a signal traveling across space. It's a connection through the fabric of reality itself.
And the OTC X-1 was supposed to be a device for that.
It was supposed to be a receiver and a transmitter for that kind of cosmic internet, a consciousness-based communication device.
It's prototype thinking. The source material uses that term, and I love it.
It is a crucial concept to understand Carr. Prototype thinking. It's the key.
Can you define that for us in this context? What does that mean?
Sure. It means that the OTC X-1 wasn't just a machine. It was a physical hypothesis, a thought experiment made of steel and copper. Carr was attempting to merge electromagnetic propulsion with theoretical anti-gravity before the physics textbooks had even caught up. He was trying to engineer a concept that physics was barely even dreaming about at the time.
Like Leonardo da Vinci sketching a helicopter in the 1400s.
That is the perfect analogy. Da Vinci knew that an air screw should work. He understood the principle of air pressure and lift. But he didn't have the internal combustion engine. He didn't have lightweight alloys like aluminum.
He had wood and canvas.
Exactly. So his helicopter couldn't fly. But the thinking behind it was fundamentally sound. It was just waiting for the materials and the power source to catch up.
So Carr is the atomic age Da Vinci, trying to build something centuries ahead of its time.
In a sense, yes. He was trying to build a machine that required a physics we arguably still don't fully understand. He was trying to bridge the mechanical world, gears, magnets, metal, with the theoretical world of quantum fields and, most importantly, consciousness.
And the engine of that bridge wasn't gasoline or nuclear power, it was a philosophy. This is the part that I think makes this story so unique.
I agree.
You can find plenty of people who tried to build weird airplanes, but Carr had this entire cosmological framework called the dimensions of mystery.
The 9 dimensions. This is the engine room of his entire theory.
And when we say dimensions, we need to be careful, because usually we think length, width, depth, that's 3, add time, okay, that's 4.
Right, and string theory suggests maybe 10 or 11, but they're still mostly spatial.
Carr's dimensions are different. They're not just about space.
They are qualitative. They aren't just directions you can move in. They are planes of existence. They are layers of reality stacked on top of each other. And Carr was adamant. You cannot build an anti-gravity drive if you are only looking at the physical layer. You have to understand the whole stack.
So let's walk through the stack. The source material groups them into 3 main buckets, which is helpful. Let's start at the bottom, or maybe the beginning, depending on how you look at it.
Sure.
Group 1, the foundation. Dimensions 1 through 3.
Right. This is the bedrock of everything.
Dimension 1 is the realm of pure energy and vibration.
Think of this as the source code of the universe, the primordial soup. Before you have a thing, before you have an atom or a proton or a quark, you just have vibration, pure potential. Carr describes this as the ultimate source of all matter and all forces.
So everything in the universe, at its most fundamental core, is just a specific frequency of hum. My desk, this microphone, us.
Essentially, yes. And what's amazing is that modern physics doesn't really disagree with this. Quantum field theory basically says that particles are just excitations in a field. They're vibrations. Carr was identifying this as the first, most basic dimension, the raw material.
Okay, raw material. Then we move to dimension 2, the realm of thought and intention.
This is where Carr diverges from standard materialism. And this, right here, is the most critical point in his entire philosophy.
Why is it so critical? What's the big shift?
Because usually we think of thought as a byproduct of complexity. You have a brain, which is matter, chemical reactions happen, which is energy, and then out of that you get a thought. Matter comes first, thought comes second.
Right, my brain is the hardware, the thought is the software running on it.
Carr flips that completely upside down. In his model, thought, which is dimension 2, organizes the energy from dimension 1 to create matter, which is dimension 3. He places consciousness before physical reality.
Oh, so the idea of the chair is more real, or at least more fundamental, than the actual chair I'm sitting on.
The idea is the cause of the chair. Dimension 2 is the bridge, the architectural layer where consciousness takes that raw, vibrating energy from dimension 1 and shapes it into a blueprint for something.
And that blueprint then leads to dimension 3, physical reality.
The world we see, the world we touch, the world that NASA rockets are stuck in. In Carr's view, physical reality is just the end result. It's the printout from the cosmic printer.
This explains so much about why he thought standard propulsion was primitive.
Exactly. If you are building a rocket, you are trying to manipulate dimension 3 by pushing against dimension 3. You are fighting matter with matter. Carr is saying, no, go upstream. If you want to move the ship, don't push the ship. Change the thought and energy that create the ship's position in the first place.
That is a lot to process. It's like trying to change the picture on a movie screen. You don't run up and start painting on the screen itself. You have to change the film in the projector.
That is the perfect analogy. Carr wanted to access the projector room.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Energy, then thought, then matter. Now we move to group 2, the perception of reality. Dimensions 4 and 5. This feels like it's more about the operator, the pilot.
It is. This is where the human element becomes absolutely crucial to the technology.
Dimension 4 is the time dimension.
And here, again, Carr challenges our direct experience. We experience time as a river, right? It flows in one direction, carrying us from the past, through the present, into the future. We are trapped in that current.
Right. I can't go back to breakfast this morning. It's gone.
Carr viewed time as an illusion constrained by perception. He believed that all moments past, present, and future exist simultaneously. But our consciousness is like a spotlight, only focused on one slice at a time.
So if you can learn to move the spotlight,
you can change your time. If time is an illusion of perception, then the OTC X-1's claim of time travel becomes a matter of shifting your perceptual location rather than traveling in a linear sense. You're not moving down a river, you're just choosing to look at a different part of the riverbank.
Which brings us directly to dimension 5, higher consciousness.
The source says this is a realm accessible through meditation and spiritual practices. Now, just imagine for a second putting this in a technical manual for a spacecraft in the 1950s. Step 1, turn on the main reactor. Step 2, achieve enlightenment.
It sounds absolutely absurd, but within Carr's own logic, it's completely consistent, isn't it?
It is perfectly consistent. If reality is created by thought, as he states in Dimension 2, then to operate a machine that manipulates reality, you need a disciplined, focused, higher form of thought. You need to be operating from Dimension 5.
So the pilot isn't just a driver, the pilot is an active component of the machine.
The pilot is the CPU, the guidance system. If the pilot's mind is fearful or chaotic or stuck in everyday Dimension 3 thinking, the machine won't work. Or worse, it might become unstable or dangerous.
So it implies that technology and spirituality are not separate tracks at all.
They are the same track. To master one, you must master the other.
That is a fascinating barrier to entry. You can buy a Tesla if you have the money, regardless of whether you're a good person or a jerk. But you can't fly the OTC X-1 unless you're basically a Zen master.
It suggests a kind of safety mechanism built into the very fabric of the universe.
Yeah.
You don't get the keys to the galaxy until you grow up, spiritually speaking.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, we are climbing the ladder. We are at the top now. Group 3, the boundless, dimensions 6 through 9.
This is where we start to leave the familiar human experience behind entirely. This is deep, deep metaphysics.
Dimension 6, alternate reality.
The multiverse. An idea that's common in sci-fi now, but was pretty out there in the 50s. Carr believed that there are infinite variations of reality running in parallel. If you can precisely tune your craft's vibration, you can shift laterally.
So you could step into a world where, I don't know, Rome never fell, or where you decided to have tea this morning instead of coffee.
According to his theory, yes, all possibilities exist somewhere.
Okay. Dimension 7, realm of pure light and energy.
This is distinct from the raw energy of Dimension 1. Dimension 1 is just potential, it's vibration. Dimension 7 is the creative force itself. It's the let there be light concept from Genesis. It's intelligent, directed, creative energy.
And above that, Dimension 8, realm of pure consciousness.
This is awareness without the self. It's not I think, therefore I am. It's just knowing. Universal mind, the cosmic ocean of awareness that everything is a part of.
And finally, at the very top, Dimension 9, realm of pure potential.
The void, the 0 point, the place where absolutely nothing exists and therefore everything is possible. It is the blank canvas before the artist even conceives of a painting, the ultimate source of Dimension 1's energy.
So just to try and recap this incredible hierarchy, Carr believed that to build a flying saucer, you have to tap into the realm of infinite potential, filter it through pure consciousness, use light to create alternate realities, navigate through the illusion of time using higher thought, which then shapes raw energy into physical matter, and then finally you spin some magnets to make the thing hover.
That is the supply chain. That's the whole cosmic manufacturing process.
Yes. It makes the Apollo program look simple. I mean, at least they just had to worry about liquid oxygen and kerosene.
Right. Rocket science is hard. Car's science is transcendent.
But here's the problem with transcendent science. You have to communicate it to other people. You have to write it down. You have to build a team. And apparently, Carr didn't just leave a clear instruction manual lying around.
No. He left us a puzzle. A big one.
Let's talk about the secret files, specifically this Coded Language Memo of 1959.
This is a document that drives researchers absolutely crazy. In 1959, Carr releases a memo that is supposed to be about the operation of the OTC X-1, but it's written entirely in symbolic and coded terminology.
Why? I mean, if you believe you have the technology to save the world, why hide it behind a code?
Well, the first reason is the most obvious and practical one. Secrecy. We talked about the era. The Cold War was in full swing. Industrial espionage was rampant. If you genuinely believed you had a device that could render borders and armies completely obsolete, you wouldn't want the Soviets getting it. And, you might not even want the U.S. military getting its hands on it either until you were ready.
So it's basically just military-grade encryption.
That's one theory. Encryption to protect the intellectual property.
Yeah.
But the source material suggests a second and maybe deeper reason.
Which is operational guide.
Think about what we just discussed regarding the dimensions. How do you write a technical instruction for apply pure intention? How do you explain the feeling of Dimension 5 consciousness using plain English words?
English is great for ordering a sandwich or writing a legal document, but maybe it's not the right tool for explaining the nature of the void.
Exactly. Words are clumsy. They are inherently trapped in Dimension 3. Carr might have felt that to guide an operator through these complex mental and energetic states, he needed new language, a language of symbols.
So the symbols weren't just hiding information, they were the information in a more pure form.
That is the core of the theory. The source suggests these symbols might represent energy modulation sequences.
Like sheet music for reality.
That is a beautiful analogy. That's perfect. When you look at a musical note on a page, it's not the sound itself. But if you're a trained musician who knows how to read it, it triggers the sound in your mind. It tells you exactly what to do with your instrument to produce that sound.
So a symbol in Carr's memo might mean spin the outer field at 500 RPM while holding the focused mental intention of weightlessness and visualizing your target coordinate.
Precisely. It was a shorthand for incredibly complex psychophysical actions, a way to communicate the incommunicable.
And the third purpose mentioned is communication, extraterrestrial communication.
Interdimensional contact, yes. If there are beings in dimension 6 or 7, they aren't speaking English or Russian. They're likely communicating through pure concept or geometry or vibration. Carr might have been trying to create a universal grammar to talk to them, a pictorial language based on the fundamental forces of the universe.
Has anyone figured it out? Have we cracked the code? Or is it just gibberish?
There are researchers who swear they see patterns. They link the symbols to sacred geometry or ancient alchemical glyphs. But there is no Rosetta Stone for Carr's language. We haven't definitively cracked it.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway, as the source points out, is that the very existence of the code proves Carr was systematic.
He wasn't just rambling about feelings and vibes.
He was organizing a system. He was trying to build a coherent structure. Even if that structure was flawed or based on a false premise, the effort shows he was thinking in complex, systemic terms about how to control these forces he believed in.
So we have this incredible all-encompassing vision, the vehicle, the 9 dimensions, the secret language. It is a complete world unto itself. But we have to ask the hard question, the question that brings us crashing back to Earth with a thud.
Did it work?
Did it fly? Because I drove here today in a car with 4 rubber tires. I didn't levitate over.
And this is where we have to be absolutely honest with the history. The OTC X-1 has never been independently verified.
It remains unproven.
It does. Carr attracted a lot of attention. He attracted investors. He set up demonstrations. And the historical record shows a pretty consistent pattern of, well, disappointment. Prototypes that didn't start. Demonstrations that were canceled at the last minute. There is no verified, authenticated footage of the X-1 hovering. There is no travel log of a trip to 1980 or to Mars.
So was it all a scam? Was he just a charismatic guy taking people for a ride that never left the ground?
It's so easy to dismiss him as that. And maybe, on some level, the pressure to produce results got to him and he made promises he couldn't keep. But I think just dismissing him as a common fraud misses the entire point of this deep dive.
The source material talks about the interdisciplinary bridge.
This is Carr's true legacy. This is what's important. Forget the hardware for a second. Look at the software, the ideas. Carr forced a collision between engineering and metaphysics.
He made the engineers think about the soul, and he made the mystics think about capacitors and magnetic fields.
Exactly. In the 1950s, those two groups might as well have been different species living on different planets. Carr said, no, you need both. You can't solve this problem from just one side. He was asking questions that, frankly, we are still asking today.
The source calls them modern echoes. So where do we see Carr's ideas popping up today?
We see them everywhere in frontier science, sometimes in the shadows. Take the field of electrogravitics.
That's the high-voltage stuff, right?
Yes. The B-2 stealth bomber. There have been persistent rumors for decades, unconfirmed of course, but persistent, that the B-2 uses a high-voltage electrostatic charge on its leading edge, not just for stealth, but to reduce air resistance and perhaps create a small amount of anomalous lift. That is pure Carr physics.
And gyroscopic propulsion.
The idea that spinning masses, if arranged correctly, can create linear thrust. It's highly controversial and violates some understandings of physics, but people are still researching it in their garages. And most importantly, higher dimensional energy interactions.
Which sounds a lot like quantum physics.
It is quantum physics. We talk about the observer effect. The proven fact that simply watching a quantum particle changes its behavior. What is that if not thought influencing matter? That's dimension 2, act down dimension 3.
So Carr was intuitively grasping the philosophical implications of quantum mechanics before it was mainstream.
He was tuning into the same frequency, yes. The math might have been different, and his terminology was certainly more mystical. But the core intuition, that reality is fluid, participatory, and shaped by consciousness, is right at the cutting edge of modern theoretical physics.
It's the philosophical shift. That's what the source emphasizes as his real contribution.
Carr's main point is that anti-gravity isn't merely a mechanical problem to be solved. It requires a broader, more inclusive definition of energy.
This brings us to a really powerful realization. We tend to think of technology as stuff, gadgets, phones, rockets, things that are external to us.
Right. We wait for Apple or SpaceX to invent the future and sell it to us.
But Carr is saying that the most powerful technology, the stuff that really gets us to the stars, is internal. It's about making that philosophical shift inside our own heads.
He is telling us that we can't just build our way out of our limitations. We have to think our way out of them. We have to evolve our consciousness.
Which is terrifying in a way because it means we have to do the work. We can't just buy the ticket and get on the ride.
It puts the responsibility right back on us, doesn't it? On our own development.
It really does. So we've gone from a garage in the 1950s, through the structure of the atom, up the 9-story ladder of consciousness, and into the void of pure potential. We've looked at the machine that maybe never flew, but it has certainly made our imaginations take flight.
It's a story of incredible reach. Even if his grasp ultimately fell short, his reach was galactic.
And that leads us to the final thought, the provocative question to send you home with.
I want everyone to go back to that core idea in Carr's hierarchy. Dimension 2 creates Dimension 3. Thought creates reality. If that is true, if Carr was right about that fundamental order of operations in the universe, then we have to ask ourselves, how much of our current technological limitations are actually just limitations of our imagination?
Are we stuck on Earth because gravity is an unbreakable law? Or are we stuck on Earth because we collectively believe it's an unbreakable law?
Precisely. Are we grounded by physics, or are we grounded by the limits of our own consciousness? If we could collectively change our intention, could we actually change the physical reality?
Could we simply decide to float?
That is the question Otis T. Carr leaves us with.
That is a question I'm going to be staring at the ceiling thinking about tonight.
Just try not to float away while you're sleeping.
I'll do my best to stay anchored in Dimension 3 for now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive into the dimensions of mystery. It has been a trip.
It certainly has.
Keep your mind open, keep asking what if, and remember, the most important blueprint might be in your own head. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.